Mark, what was your reaction while watching War on God in America?
My first reaction was that kind of noted the date. It's a little bit older because of some of the people that they mentioned. And I thought the details were pretty eye-opening, no reference to God and some of the newer things that are being constructed there. And I thought the things in the visitor center were pretty telling. Why would details be changed? Why would things be, taken out? So it certainly made me think. It certainly made me think, okay, why would that be the case? It seems to me like one of the things that's going on is political correctness, trying not to have anything that is offensive. Why someone would be offended by that, I'm not sure. But I didn't know whether it was an overt attempt to get rid of Christianity or maybe just to get rid of any reference to religion. I think that's the thing that wasn't clear to me, and that the video was short, so it couldn't, make the full case for it. So those are the kinds of things that were going through my mind. But they're obviously of concern. They're obviously a note of, well, why do we need to take some of this stuff out of our history? Why not be straightforward about it? So certainly made me think, and it made me wonder what's going on.
Have you seen any censorship in today's media of Christianity in America?
I'm trying to think of specific examples. Some of the things that I've read certainly seems to suggest that people get very nervous about the mention of God or Jesus in certain contexts, schools in particular. Some of the efforts to get statements about the Ten Commandments and those kinds of things out of public places, those are kind of troubling. Like why this concern? So I see some evidence of it. It seems like if Christians can be put in a bad light, they are. If they're put in a good light, that doesn't get mentioned as much. It seems like there's been a war, in some ways just waged in terms of what gets promoted or what gets produced or what gets talked about. That certainly seems to be a trend.
Gotcha. Do you believe that this trend is going to continue in the future?
I don't see why it wouldn't. It certainly seems like it is. I think some of the questions is, what is the church going to do that's going to create a different scenario or a different story? Because I think really the key is what stories are being told. And what Christians are actually doing that's positive and constructive that can kind of change that narrative.
Mm-hmm. On that note, is there anything that you can think of right now that we could start doing to help further our government?
Well, I think a lot of the issues has to do with people who are transformed in the image of Christ. They're like Jesus, and they enter businesses and government as believers, but with quality leadership skills that can make a difference. In other words, if a Christian were directing a company, what kind of company would it be? What would be the influence of how they would run it in ways that would be positive for the business and positive for the employees? The same thing with government leaders. One of the things that I see as I look at Washington right now, despite my personal political preferences, it seems to me like both sides of the argument have just not made good decisions. Just the math alone of our government. So that's where I feel like Christians actually offering intelligent solutions to the problems that face, in value-based solutions, and doing that with integrity, that would be an awesome contribution. I think in the context of a local community, what are churches doing to make a real difference in people's lives that are helping them, and what are we doing to help individuals become different? I feel like many of the answers that we have really are solutions, and it's just doing that in constructive and healthy ways.
Gotcha. This church does Isaiah's Wardrobe and a couple other, community involvement. Is there anything else that you feel that Grace could be doing?
Well, one of the things that we've been really trying to do is help our small groups embrace reaching out to people, because a lot of people, for someone who doesn't know Jesus, especially in a community like Lynchburg, where there's lots of churches and they've heard some kind of preaching at some point in their life. It seems to me that they need to see it lived out. They need to see people who are living differently and caring for one another, and they needed to be invited into community. So one of the things we've been trying to get our small groups to do is to invite people into relationship. One of the things that we've seen is that people who become a part of a small group over time, we have seen some real growth and transformation. And I think that's the gospel isn't just about what happens to you when you die, it's about living life with Jesus now. And people's lives really are different when they begin to follow Jesus. And so we want to help people do that, but that's going to be done more organically. It's not necessarily done by inviting them to one meeting. It's not necessarily done by inviting them to one event. It's more inviting them into relationship and into community. So that's one of our strategies for trying to make a difference here.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Mark. It's been very
Yeah.
informative.